Pranakasha live stream. Hey folks, it's Matt at Pranakasha Productions, and today I'm talking with fellow YouTuber Maria of Tea and Telly with Maria. So how's it going over there?
It's going well. Thank you so much for having me. It's such a pleasure. Thank you.
It's great. So we hardly know each other at all. We just kind of tweeted a few things back and forth and DM'd each other. So we're like just meeting right now.
Getting to know each other. Yeah.
I dig
watched
that.
you one other. What's that?
I dig that backdrop. It's like I can't tell what it is, but it's some glowing stuff.
It's my bookshelf, and I kind of like to make it look like a little library. And it's got a collection of a few things, but my books that are collectibles and some of my Zen stuff and just
cool.
So it looks like a nice little comfortable library.
It looks like it's got some Christmas lights there. Is that an all around year-round thing, or is it just kind of a holdover from holidays?
No, I kind of I get the lights during Christmas so that I can keep them up. Like, I like solid colors, but I don't know, the different colors kind of made certain things stand out. But yeah, I kind of like to have it all year round because it's relaxing.
Nice.
I don't like bright lights. I like nice and calm, and the little lights give it a little bit of a relaxing feeling. So
that's cool. Mm-hmm. Yeah, many years ago, I spent some time in an ashram in India. It's about a week and a half. It was, and I flew into Mumbai, which is this giant city. Yeah. And then I took a cab about an hour drive from there out to this village where the ashram was. And it was nighttime. So everybody in Mumbai had all these, what here in the West we would call Christmas lights, right?
Right.
But they're, I guess you would call them Diwali lights or something like that. But yeah. So I asked some people about it, and they're like, yeah, everybody just keeps them all year round. And just likes, they just like them, you know?
Yeah, it is relaxing. And I don't know, kind of gives it a nice feel to it. And because, life is stressful enough as it is. So
that's true.
It's nice to make your home very comfortable and very zen-like. So
yeah, the closest thing I have to that and right in here is, of course, the lava lamp, which unfortunately I forgot to turn it on. It takes about an hour to get itself going.
Oh, wow.
So it's only been on for about a half hour, but eventually we'll start to see some stuff happen in there. And then this lamp, I like to do this thing. Keep the things going.
It looks like a motor lamp.
Yeah, I got it at Value Village.
Oh.
It was really cool looking.
It does.
So I decided I had to have that.
Is that a rosin? Is that a bow? I mean.
Oh yeah. So this is a cello bow.
Cello bow. Oh my gosh.
And this goes to the cello, which is right back here. It's hard to see.
Yeah. That's awesome.
And yeah, I grew up playing violin, and then several years ago I started playing cello. But only about a year or so ago I started taking lessons and all that. But
I have to tell you, you inspired me there to want to do it. I've always wanted to play the cello. I started out playing violin myself.
Oh, really?
And I tell you a little secret. I started out playing violin when I was about in the 4th grade.
Okay.
And a lot of people that know Tea and Telly is my with Tea and Telly know that I'm dyslexic. And so I really wanted to play because I love singing, and music is a huge part of my life. And so I started out playing violin, but what I didn't realize was going to be complicated was reading notes, right? As the pages are in front of me, I'm just like, oh my gosh. Well, I had this gift that I didn't realize, but I could play by ear.
Great.
I went the entire time of my violin career playing by ear. the instructor, the composer, did not even know. He didn't realize it. It wasn't until we did a concert, and I'm sorry, there's some noise like a humming, so I apologize for that. They're doing some construction, and my cat over there making noise. But anyway, so it wasn't until we had this concert and he was watching me and I was like, oh my gosh, what am I doing? Is he like going to get mad at me for something? It wasn't until later and he says, hey, I realized that you weren't turning your pages the entire time. He says, why is that? I said, and I finally told him, I said, because I don't know how to get these notes together. I can't read them, so I play by ear. He said, but you did a solo and got ones and a blue ribbon, and you did that without reading a note. I said, yes. And the way I got away with that was like, he gives me the song. He says, this is a song you're going to do at the contest. And I was like, oh my gosh, how am I going to tell him now? I said, can you play it for me once so I can hear it? He says, sure. So he plays it and and I did it. I don't know how, but I remembered the whole thing.
After hearing it once. Wow.
Yeah, after hearing it once. And then I got a blue ribbon for it because I did it really well. And then I could have kept going, but I thought I can't fake my way through the rest of it. So I kind of gave it up, but I really wanted to play the cello.
Wow. Yeah. Have you ever heard of the Suzuki method? Ever heard of that?
I have actually, and just recently. So I don't know a lot about it, but I have heard of it.
The whole premise behind that method is that all the kids learn all their songs by ear. And it isn't till many years into it that they start to learn how to read. Yeah. The main idea was that Dr. Suzuki was this guy in Japan, and his whole thing was that children learn their native tongue just by imitating what their parents do. They just learn it all by heart. And you don't learn how to read and write until many years later. And he said, if kids can do that with their own language, then why can't they do that with music? So that was his whole thing.
Well, that's a good method.
Yeah.
And that's true because that's well, I speak Spanish and that's the way
I great.
learned.
Qué bueno.
Yeah. So I didn't learn how to read until much later. I mean, I just mimicked, like you said, mimicked our parents. So yeah, but in the house, we spoke a lot of Spanglish. So, it got confusing when people come over, you forget that you're speaking Spanglish.
Okay.
¿Y hablas español también?
So eres María.
Yes, María.
Qué buena, María. Sí. Hablo un poquito español.
Un poquito.
Sí.
Se oye muy bien.
Sí, es la misma cosa. No en escuela.
Yeah.
Sí. I learned from watching Univision.
Univision?
Yeah.
That's the best place to learn it.
The only problem is that I learned, what I discovered is if I learn like sentences, just memorize a whole sentence, that worked way better. And then I would just build up this kind of list of things I could just fire off.
Yeah.
But the only problem was, since I was watching Univision and the novellas, my sentences were like, oh, mi amor, no puedo vivir sin ti.
Did you start getting angry like they do?
Yeah. So
I was like, they shouldn't do that. They're going to make people scared of us Latinas because they're going to think we're all like that.
Because they're so
passionate.
You got so much fuego in el corazón.
Right.
En tu alma.
En mi alma.
Okay. So, yeah, that's neat.
Yeah.
Wow. Now there was something came by. Oh yeah. So anyhow, but my mom taught Suzuki. So I pretty much grew up with the Suzuki method.
Wow.
Like I don't remember any time when I didn't play violin because my mom had students coming in the house all the time and she always played. And we actually even got to take lessons from Dr. Suzuki himself in Japan.
Nice. Oh, that would have been an honor. Wow.
Yeah. Yeah, because she was a certified Suzuki teacher, so he invited her to go to Japan to do some training, and we stayed there for like 3 weeks. And while we were there, my sister and I took lessons from Dr. Suzuki, number one guy, every single day for 3 weeks.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's excellent.
Yeah, it was really cool. Oh my
gosh.
Yeah. He was also very much into Zen too. Mm-hmm. Like he especially, well, of course he did meditation, but he also loved to do those watercolors and the calligraphy.
Yeah, I've been learning from not my Zen teacher, but my Zen teacher's teacher. So Roshi before my Roshi. And so he was teaching me that as well. And nice. I really like that as well. But yes, that's, I'm not sure if you're aware, I am a Zen priest. So
right. I remember in one of our Twitter conversations, we got into that.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, I knew that. So I actually prepared myself quite a bit for this, more than usual. But like, for example, I brought this. I don't know if you can see that.
Yeah. Well,
it's not Zen, it's Tibetan Buddhism.
Yes, Tibetan Buddhism.
It's a tanka, but on over the top, it says Pranakasha. And this is a CD that I made using a cello, which is this kind of Om sound. And then and I called the CD Pranakasha. And then I'm like, well, I got to have a label for this CD if I'm going to sell it. So I just said, I'll call my label Pranakasha Productions. So that's how Pranakasha Productions was born.
Really?
And it wasn't until much later that it became a YouTube channel.
Oh, wow.
And, but this, you probably have seen these things. So this, you can see like this guy, there's a little bit of reflection, but yeah.
Yeah.
Actually, that picture in reality is about that big.
Is it? Oh my gosh.
It's one of those tankas where like the person like does it with one hair.
Yes.
The Buddhist monk. And from I don't know how they do it. They just get the most detail and expression out of that one tiny little hair.
I know. It's amazing.
All this detail in it.
It kind of reminds me of the people with the talent that actually create an entire portrait using sand. Oh, and it only it's only there for a little while and then it's gone. It's like,
then you wipe it all away.
Yeah, it's so detailed. But yeah, that I've seen those too. And I'm like, oh my gosh, that's insane. But that's awesome. I'm going to have to hear that because, I do a lot of meditation and I don't normally meditate with anything on. Like there's no music or anything, obviously, during meditation. It's just you. But
there's your heartbeat and your breathing.
Yes, your breathing.
All your thoughts.
Yeah. But I do like to sit sometimes and just have the Om, because that Om is definitely another form of meditation. So,
and Om, they talk about Om in Zen Buddhism too, right? Because that, like in Hinduism and yoga, they call Om the unstruck sound. Sometimes it's called that name, or the Anahata Nada is the Sanskrit for it. Yeah. And so it's like the sound that doesn't have a physical origin to it. It's kind of what that means, I guess. But interestingly enough, when I really started getting comfortable with the space, which I like to just call the silence, and really started getting to the point where I could almost at will go there, without. Usually, for most meditators, like a lot of your meditation is like a struggle, because like you have these little fleeting moments where you're like, oh, that's it, right? I want that. But the moment you grab for it, then of course it's gone. Right. And but then, there came a point for me, at least, where, actually it took quite a bit of therapy to get there, to tell the truth.
Yeah.
Years of, after doing meditation for decades, it turns out I just had just some really basic psychological, emotional childhood stuff that I never truly addressed, that like just plain old therapy, which for me was just basically talking and having my therapist listen, was what was the thing that I really needed. Anyways, after going through all that, then suddenly like all the angst and pain that was in my heart just kind of went whoosh, you know? And then I was like, whoa, now that that's not there, what is there is this silence and peace. And, but get this. So, and then of course, what I also recently have discovered, like within the past year or so, is that there's peace and there's love and there's happiness in this that arises from the silence, right? But also there is this feeling. It's not even a sound. It's like a feeling of, which I would say is Om. It's kind of a it's not a sound. It's like a feeling of the sound.
Feeling. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know what you mean. And I struggled with the meditation part at first too, because before I started learning, you read a lot of books and you try to learn, but everybody has different ideas, different opinions, and I didn't really know which way to go. And the first thing they always teach you is clear your mind. You're like, okay, wait a minute. You can't clear your mind. If you try to clear your mind, you'd be dead because your brain is always working.
Right.
So until I learned from the teacher that, you know what, you cannot clear your mind, but what you do is you let those, as soon as you get a thought of something, whether it's a memory or whatever, or, oh my gosh, tomorrow I have to, you acknowledge it and you let it pass. Right. So that way everything else can come through. So a lot of people mistake the fact that they think meditation is going to take away their problems. And as you well know, that's not magnifies the case. Them. You're absolutely right. There are times in meditation where I could come up and I feel anger. Anger. And there's another time meditation where I come up and I'm crying. Yeah. And so different feelings come up because you're sitting there with yourself for a while. And the more you do it, the more you're realizing yourself. And so a lot of different feelings come up, and it makes it uncomfortable for some, but you just have to get through it and get past it. And those things that happen to you, because like you, I had quite the childhood and stuff. And even up into further years, I've gone through quite a bit. And so, yeah, I get those feelings once in a while come up, and they're still there. But like you said, you find a way to acknowledge them, but realize that there's nothing you can do about it. It's the past. You can't change it. There's nothing you can do about the future because it hasn't happened yet. So you have to live for right now, in the moment. And right now I'm alive. I'm good. So it makes it easier to think about how to deal with those when they come up. Right. So, yeah.
Yeah. I don't know if you're aware, have you ever read any of the books by Teal Swan or seen any of her videos? You ever heard of her?
Not yet, no.
She's another, she's pretty controversial because she does a lot of things that gurus aren't supposed to do. Like she likes to wear pretty dresses and she likes to put on makeup and she likes models and things like that.
Yeah.
So you're not allowed to do that if you're a guru, supposedly.
Oh, true. Yes. Well,
but she has quite a story to tell.
Really?
Like when she was a kid, she had a super abusive childhood.
Mm-hmm.
And so because of that, she's not afraid to be rough around the edges, and she'll just say really, but the thing about it is she never tries to be all nicey nice. She'll just say stuff like it is. She doesn't care if she ticks people off or not. So I really like that aspect of her.
Yeah.
And she's also very into, her whole deal is she's really into inner child type of work, healing, where you go back and you meet your child self. You do all these different type of guided meditation types of things. And you basically what you do is you do like a therapy session on the child, and you heal all the wounds that child endured. I find it super effective.
That would be so difficult to visit. But sometimes I sit there and wonder, like, I haven't gone to a therapist, and is that a bad thing or a good thing? Or, I mean, I don't do drugs. I don't like use alcohol to cover things up. I'm still very trusting and giving and all this other stuff. And people are like, how can you function knowing the things that have happened to you in the past? I'm like, I don't know.
Well,
oh no.
I went, like I said, I went for years, decades, thinking that Western therapy doesn't work, and they don't know anything about spirituality. They don't know anything about this. So, and the spiritual energy that I have, the meditation and all these things is all I need to heal myself. I don't need to do that stupid therapy. That's for like Hollywood movie stars and stuff. Anyways, I was
with money.
Of course, I didn't really know what it was. I thought I knew what it was, but I thought I knew enough about it that I knew I never needed to do it. But of course, I didn't. But anyhow, I had to come to a totals crisis where literally I really thought, because what was happening is I had some buried emotions that because I was doing meditation, it was bringing them up. And they were getting stronger and stronger and stronger. And I was like, what is this? Where's this coming from?
Yeah.
But I was so blocked. I couldn't really figure out where they were coming from. I just felt the raw feelings.
Yeah.
Pretty soon I got to the point where I couldn't even sleep at night. I would be like waking up I'd go to bed at like 9:00 and wake up at 11 and be up. And then I'd be stuck all night long, half asleep, freaking out. So I really thought I was going to go nuts. Plus my dad was bipolar and my sister was bipolar. And so I was like, you know what? I'm bipolar just like them. I'm flipping out just like the rest of my family. And I thought, so for a while I thought, I used to be able to control this when I did my meditation would make this go away. But now when I do meditation, it makes it worse. So I was like, you know what? Forget about meditation. To hell with it. I'll just stop doing it. I'll just be a normal person. I'll never do meditation ever again. Well, that worked for a while. Then it started happening again. And then anyhow, and for years, my mom had been telling me, you should go do therapy. You should do therapy. Which at the same time, she's like, you should eat meat. You need to eat meat. You should eat fish once a week. You can't be vegetarian all the time. So finally, I was like, you know what? I've tried everything else. I'm about to go completely flip out. I'm going to end up in a psych ward at any moment. So why don't I just try therapy and see what happens? My first session was like, whoa, I actually feel a lot better. And all it really was, at least for now, I still do therapy now just because I kind of like it now. It's fun. Plus it's more about relationship thing now. So it helps me and my wife in our marriage if we both go to a therapist. Yeah. Not the same therapist, but they do talk to each other. We signed a form that allows our therapists to talk amongst themselves about me and my wife. So that helps. But anyways, So back then, the thing that all I did was literally I would just show up and just start talk about my day, just talk. And somehow just the physical act of talking it through has a very healing effect. Mm-hmm. If you're talking it through physically, pronouncing it and demonstrating it to another person, gets you out of your head and gets you, it's kind of like in Catholicism where you have to do, where you do confession.
Yeah.
Except for confession, you only get to do a couple minutes, right?
You're like, how can I squeeze it all in 2 minutes? I don't know.
Whereas like with therapists, you at least get an hour. Mm-hmm. So you work all through. But I think it's really the same process. Mm-hmm. Just confessing your quote sins or whatever you want to call it.
Still, whatever it is.
And then it has a chance to kind of work itself out.
Yeah.
Especially if you are doing meditation and things like that, then once you unclog it a little bit, then the energy and the healing is able to move right in and heal it really fast.
Well, I think, obviously you're right about that. I did start seeing or talking to a therapist to ask if I was malfunctioning because I was like, okay, this is crazy. Why am I asking this? But do I need to? But I think what helped was that I bottled everything inside and I buried it deep. And I learned methods of survival.
Right.
So it was just a self-defense mechanism that I used. And but what I didn't realize that if you do that too much, it can still damage you. Just because it's buried down and you think everything's okay, it does reflect itself later, like in relationships and things like that, where you have insecurities and you have fears and things like that. But and then one day you're sitting in a car in a parking lot, bawling your eyes out. You don't know why. It's because all those emotions are just like, nope, here you go.
Yeah.
And so for me to talk to somebody about everything does help.
So how did it feel when you actually were bawling in that car? How did it feel?
It did feel like a sense of release, but then a lot of emotions came through at the same time. And so it was like just a flood of emotions. But it felt good to actually sit there and cry for a while. And that's it. Just to kind of get it out. My body was like, oh, by the way, you kind of need this. And so it does help. And for anybody who thinks that they don't need to release it, it affects your health. It affects everything. So I started doing that and allowing myself to feel. And I think it was the practice, my Zen practice, that taught that it's okay to be angry. It's okay to be sad. It's okay to be happy and have all these feelings because you're human and that's how we're built. And so you got to do what you got to do. It's what you do with the sadness and the anger that make the difference. So have it, be angry, be upset. And so I started to be able to do that. And I was like, oh, this is good. This is good. I kind of like this.
Right. Yeah. It's, well, like in yoga and the yoga philosophy, they do talk about the energy. There's a word, a Sanskrit word called Shakti, where they talk about there's the silence, right? Which is what everything comes from, right? But then out of the silence comes the energy of creation in all its forms. And one of its forms is a kind of energy that works through your body and purifies your body and does all these things. And at some point it does touch your emotions and activate them, right? So in your Zen practice, do they talk about anything like that? Anything similar to that?
Yeah, we do. My teacher does. I check in with, we have once a week kind of thing. And he always asks me, how's your meditation coming? How's your meditation? And he asks every time.
Right.
And I think he does that because he's waiting for me to get it, to understand the different things that come up with it. It's not the same thing every time.
Right.
And so at first I used to say, oh, it's great. I never understood that he wasn't talking about how are you sitting, how long are you sitting, and all that other stuff. It was more detailed than that. And so then now I'm like, well, let me tell you what happened the last time, okay? And so now he's like, okay, kiddo, I think you're figuring it out. But there's
do you
still
feel free to just sort of free associate with them when you're working with them?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah. Because there is that whole, I mean, at first it was kind of hard because when you talk with somebody, your mind automatically goes to, oh, this guy's going to fix everything for me. And you kind of look at them as a therapist. But then you realize, like he always had to say is, Maria, just to remind you, I'm not a therapist.
Well, interesting, because I was just going to say that it sounds like basically you're doing a therapy.
Yeah.
I wonder why he says he's not a therapist.
Because they're not the point is that you're learning. He teaches you what the traditional things, that teachings that came from the Buddha himself on how to meditate and how to do this and why we do what we do. Right. Everything else you have to kind of figure out. And it was mainly because it's kind of like one of the teachings that say, for somebody like for you, if you've never tasted a watermelon before, I could describe it. Its color, how big it is, the texture, the whole thing. Right. But you're really never going to understand it until you actually have had it yourself.
Tasted it, right.
And so that's kind of what he is. He's the teacher that tells you and describes everything to you, but you have to figure it out on your own. You're going to have to figure out how to reach your own enlightenment. And, you have to experience it yourself. And he can't even explain what enlightenment is like, because for him, it was different. For me, it's going to be different. So, definitely not a therapist. So I can't sit there and tell him all my problems, because he's going to be like, no, that's not what I'm here for. But it's still helpful anyway, because you still learn a lot. You still learn a lot. I read a lot of books on the teachings and all that other stuff. And I'm going to be going into Koan teaching. Oh, fun. Soon. Yeah. And
tell us what that is. I know what a Koan is, but tell the people what a Koan is.
A Koan is, well, let me describe that. It's kind of like, well, for example, my name Shinzai is my priest name. My name Shinzai is a Koan. And your teacher gives it to you, and you have to figure out why he gave it to you. And so it's a lesson. It's a life's lesson. Like Shinzai means heartwood.
Means what?
Heart, like heartwood. It's like a tree.
Okay.
The tree heartwood. And so I went to study what a heartwood tree was. Okay. And I found it very interesting that heartwood is the center of the tree. The center of the tree that lives the longest and that feeds the rest of the tree. Oh. And the tree could die, but the center stays alive, and it still can feed other trees. It can do all that other stuff with that. So, the heartwood is the hardest center of the tree. And so just when I think that I know why he gave me that name, I probably don't know.
It's interesting. That just reminded me, there's a Hindu scripture called the Yoga Vasishta, where Lord Rama, as a 16-year-old, is talking to his guru. and his guru Vasishta. And Rama is like the incarnation of the Lord of Vishnu. So basically, he's like God as the sustainer of the universe. But he's 16 years old and he doesn't know that yet. So he has to talk to his guru to find out who he really is again. But there's in there, they tell all kinds of stories. And there's several stories in there where they start talking about a wood apple. And when you said heartwood, I thought, oh, that's like the wood apple in these stories. And the wood apple is like the center of the universe or the heart of the universe. And it's this mysterious heart space that you want to find. Similar type of a thing. Yeah.
I still kind of, I mean, I know that in order to get my final certificate from my instructors, I'm going to need to tell him what I discovered with that. And I'm still learning. I'm still trying to understand why he feels that I am a heartwood.
Okay.
I have ideas, but that's what koans do. They make you think, and they make you think outside the box and to see things in a bigger picture. But it's not complicated, but we make it complicated when learning koans.
So what? Of course, I'm not actually a Zen. I've read a few Zen books, and I know a little bit about it. And I have a friend who does Zen. When he talks about meditation, he just says, "Well, I just breathe.
Yeah,
I just breathe. That's all I do."
You know what? He is absolutely right, and I think that's the other reason why people get turned off by it, because they think that they're going to come out of it all flowers and lambs and everything's wonderful and whatnot. And then, so when they come to me to learn meditation, and I'm like, okay, so how are you breathing? How are you sitting? Are you comfortable? And they're like, where do we get to the good stuff? It's like, but that's what you're doing.
Yeah, I want to have visions like they have an avatar, you know?
Yes.
That's the cool part.
Have visions, and they think they're gonna, be all.
I want to go to the astral plane and talk to, demigods and angels and have them show me my last 1,000 past lives and so on.
That's exactly it. But what they don't realize is there is a benefit to that regardless, because what you're doing is living in that moment to realize that this is now, this is the moment that you're in. And when you connect yourself with your breathing, you're bringing back everything kind of together.
Right.
Your mind and your body and your physical sense and stuff too. And so everything kind of works together, not separately. Your mind isn't 10 miles away while your body's here.
Right. And
so when you do come across an issue, a problem, you're kind of better equipped to be able to deal with it.
Right.
Which is why, my teacher's always saying, stop doing multiple things at one time. Because it's not supposed to do that. One thing at a time, and when you do it well. And it's true. So, because your mind will be in 10 different directions if you're multitasking.
I have a counter to that one.
Yeah.
So, okay. Why is it bad for the mind to do what it's designed to do, which is to think?
It's not bad, though. See, that's the thing, though. In Zen, you learn there's no good, there's no bad. It's not that.
So why should I stop it? I mean, if the whole purpose of the mind is to think all these thousands of thoughts all the time, then why do I need to stop it?
You don't need to. That's the other thing that's confusing to people is that we.
I'm messing with you, right?
Yes, I know. Okay. You're right. The mind is definitely capable of that. but then you are not putting everything into that. I mean, like when you're cooking, you're obviously going to be doing this and watching your food and doing that, but you're doing one thing, you're cooking and you're
brought
being
some
happy.
focus.
Yes.
Right.
With that. But like I said, it's not that it's a bad thing. We never teach people this is good and this is bad. That happens in other kind of religions where they tell you that's bad, you can't do that, or this or that. So I mean, yeah, I think I see exactly what you're saying. There would be a good argument point for that, but but it does help to kind of stay focused on certain things. And I'm definitely guilty of not following that. Don't multitask.
Well, okay, so I'm going to throw in a technical term. And I think this term is actually may also be used in Zen too. There's this Sanskrit term called nirvikalpa samadhi. Ever heard of that?
I think I've heard of that one.
What it means is, samadhi means sameness. Everything's the same. And nirvikalpa means without waves or without modification. So like in yoga philosophy, they say that the greatest level of meditation is when you achieve nirvikalpa samadhi, meaning that your mind is literally empty of thoughts, right? Well, in my opinion, what's the point? Because it's impossible to be a human being and to do anything and function on the earth and also at the same time be in the state of nirvikalpa samadhi. It's impossible.
Yeah.
The only way you can be in nirvikalpa samadhi is if you go sit in a cave, your heart stops beating and you stop breathing, and then literally you might as well not even be alive.
Exactly.
Okay. But you did achieve the ultimate enlightenment. Okay. But what good is it?
Yeah,
So my point is this, that you can develop a relationship with the silence, and you can be intimately connected to it. In fact, to tell you the truth, everyone already is. It's basically everybody is so intimately connected with the silence in the same way that they're intimately connected with the breathing and the heartbeat, because it's really from what everything emerges from, that place. And then in the human body, it's literally the space in which your thoughts live. So whether or not your mind has thoughts or not has no effect whatsoever on the silence.
Right. No, you're absolutely right on that one, because what was I going to say, that in enlightenment, for me to reach enlightenment for me is not, oh, I can sit here without zero thoughts. What it means is that you have realized that the world is pretty much perfect the way it is. The things that happen around us.
Not pretty much. It is.
Yeah,
actually,
it is.
The world is.
It is perfect.
It is as it is, right?
And yeah, and I'm not going to say the good bad, because again, there's no good and bad. It's kind of like you can be sitting there watching this beautiful bird, and it's eating and it's just singing away and it's so beautiful. Right. And then a hawk comes in and takes it, and you're like, oh my gosh, that's horrible. But then that hawk needed to eat. So the hawk got to have its meal, even though this little birdie's gone now. And so you have to appreciate everything the way it is. And so, the world is perfect the way it is. And some people are like, what are you talking about?
Right. If you start talking like that, and a lot of people get really pissed.
They do, because they don't understand that concept.
Part of it is that what we're trying to allude to when we say that is, on one hand, everything's perfect, right? Because everything comes from the silence, and we live in this amazing universe that seems to have no end to it. And however you look at it, it always has some amazing aspect to it, right? Okay. On the other hand, there's a lot of times being a person on the earth is a real pain in the ass.
Oh,
right?
Yeah. Absolutely.
So there's two things. We got both.
Yeah.
And so on one hand, you have this connection to the silence where everything's great.
Mm-hmm.
On the other hand, you're still a person. Like, so like if a bee stings you, it's going to hurt. Or if a mosquito bites you, it's going to itch. Or, you know, if you get COVID, you're going to cough. You might even die, you know, all these things. So it's kind of like, as a human being, even when you're, quote, enlightened, whatever that is, you still have both things happening, right? And you still have thoughts in your mind. Like like if I come across a person that I would consider enlightened or whatever, back in the day, I used to think, well, they don't have any thoughts in their mind and they can read my mind, and, you know, they know everything at all times, and they're like omniscient and all this stuff, because that's what my fantasy of what enlightenment was.
Right.
I had no idea what it really is. But now, at least based on my own experience, what it really is you develop a relationship with the silence, and then you enjoy being a human being.
Yeah.
So, and all that it entails. Like, why would an enlightened person, like if I'm enlightened, am I still going to wear glasses someday? I think I will, actually. You know?
Absolutely. Like, yeah. Like my teacher says, you live and then you die. The end. Yeah. You know?
Well, not exactly, of course.
Well, I mean, you know what I mean. But
depending on if you believe in reincarnation or not.
Right.
However, I mean, there's so many ways. I mean, again, what happens in my show is we start getting into it, and then it's like it never ends. Okay. We start peeling back the onion. Yeah. So on one hand, I'm pretty convinced there is this thing called reincarnation. So, in fact, I've even done some past life therapy and gone back and looked at old past lives and stuff and all that. But also, I also know that on one hand, yeah, we've led all these past lives, right? And we have the memory of them, in mostly kind of an emotional memory of them. And yet, that's all an illusion. And you could even say that's all a bunch of bullshit, because that's what's really important, like you said, is what's going on right now. Right? Yeah. My very next breath. That's the most important thing.
Absolutely. And funny you were talking about past lives. I often wondered about that myself, because before I went into teaching, you know, or learning and everything, I used to have this reoccurring dream all the time. And I remember I was married to this German before, my ex-husband. Oh. And he was really, really big on history. Okay. And I love history, but I'm not as detailed as he is. And he is very detailed. So anyway, so I'm telling him, I said, you know, because I would wake up screaming in German. And do you
speak German?
Meine Deutsch ist nicht gut. You know, I learned German for 4 years, but it wasn't like that. It was perfect German, like really good German. And I would wake up like, oh my God. And then like terrified and stuff. And I couldn't figure out why. Well, my dreams were always, I told him one time, I said, okay, let me tell you, I dreamt that I was wearing this outfit and I had this hat and it had this pointy thing on it, and I had this gun and it had a little sword on it, because I'm not that great at history. And I said it had a sword on it and stuff like that. And I remember that I was walking over a pile of dead bodies, and I could smell it and I could feel it and I could smell the gunpowder and everything. And I was hiding behind this thing, and I'm describing this thing to him. And I said, and then the big guy, who I guess is the boss guy, because I'm such an idiot, he comes, I said, he came around and he's screaming at me, and he's calling me a coward because I hid through the whole, through the whole fighting. And I told him, I don't want to kill anybody. I can't kill anybody. Why am I here? And, but we're speaking in German. Mm-hmm. And he's sitting there with his mouth open going, oh my gosh. So he pulls up and he pulls up the information. He said, does it look like this? And I'm like, yeah, like that. He goes, oh my gosh, okay. So he's, I'm describing this stuff that I've never seen before, whatever. And but I would constantly have other dreams about me. And I was a man, and then I told him about that I was in love with the enemy, this woman from the enemy side, and we would meet secretly. And then one day she's gone at our meeting place. She's gone. Well, they found out, and then they took her and stuff. So I mean, they were very detailed. Like I could feel everything, I could smell everything, and my dreams are kind of bizarre anyway, because I see in color, which I didn't know most people didn't. They dream in black and white, but the senses were real. So when I would get stabbed or shot, I felt it. I knew what it was like. Mm-hmm. And so, but I would constantly have these dreams where I was a German soldier, and I couldn't understand why. And I thought, why would I have these dreams like this? It's just kind of, and I would be watching a movie from that time, and I would sit there and start bawling. Like, I don't want to see it again. And I'm thinking, and wait a minute, what am I talking about? I've never been there before. But yeah, those are the kind of things that always make me wonder.
Don't watch Saving Private Ryan.
I've seen it. Trust me, I've seen that one. It was hard to watch.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well,
so that was interesting.
So like, what does your teacher, like if you told this to your teacher, how would he react to that?
To be honest, I don't know, because I've never talked to him about that before. Mm-hmm. And I'm not sure why. I think you're probably the only third person I've ever told.
Oh, wow.
So
besides all the rest of the internet
besides now the whole internet. But yeah, I've never really told anybody because I just was like, they're going to think I'm nuts or something. But
it's really common for people to have past life experiences and dreams and stuff.
Yeah.
And if it's true that we do have past lives, then it's pretty normal then.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what would you say is everybody has a talent. Like, what do you think your talent is?
Oh gosh. Like a physical talent or an emotional talent? No, just kidding.
The first thing that comes to mind.
I think, well, I mean, I could say, well, I love singing. I have this talent singing. I think though, what came to mind right away was that I seem to have a talent to calm people.
Okay.
In that I can get a perfect stranger to tell me their deepest, darkest secrets. And they don't know why. And they will always say, I have no idea why I'm telling you this. Yeah. You just brought it up. I mean, I could do anything like, hey, how's it going? And then next thing you know, they're spilling their guts. Yeah. And so I seem to have the talent to get people to relax and just feel like they don't have to act or do anything but be themselves with
put on a show.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I can get the angriest person in front of me, and they always say, I can't be angry talking to you. Why is that? I'm like, I don't know. So
what happens when you do that? Do you feel like you absorb some of that anger from them, or what happens to that anger?
Yeah. My sister sends me lots of articles about empaths.
Okay. I was going to say.
She says, you are a total empath because I can feel people's emotions. Right. And they don't have to say anything. I could be next to them and I could be like, oh my gosh, they're so frustrated right now. Please calm down. You're making me feel that way. So I do tend to feel them, but they don't even have to be standing next to me. I could feel people across the way or whatever if I'm thinking about them. So I don't know. I don't know if it's a thing, but she keeps sending me stuff on empaths.
My wife is kind of like that. My wife wanted to be a nurse, but she realized she couldn't handle it because she was too empathic, that she just felt people suffering so much that she said, I won't be able to take this. I wouldn't be able to go to do this every day.
Yeah. That was me too.
Yeah.
Because I definitely feel somebody's true emotion. If they're really sad, I'm crying. I'm crying with them. If they're really happy, I feel that joy or whatever it is. The anger, especially. I'm like, why am I in such a bad mood? And I'm like, oh yeah, okay. So that's why I keep soft lights. That's why I do kind of my own thing. I need my alone time. I go behind my bedroom and shut the door, leave me alone for a while. I have to be away from people for a while. And if I'm in a store and there's a ton of people, I'm just like,
my previous wife couldn't stand going to a library because she would pick up on all the people's emotions in the library, and so you must have a lot of water in your chart then, astrologically, like Pisces and Cancer and things like that. You must have that in your chart.
I'm not sure about that part. All I know is I'm a Virgo, but
that's your sun sign. But there's a whole bunch more to it than that.
Yeah, so. I'd like to know though, but all I know is I'm on the 22nd, which is the first day of autumn. That's all I know. Is that I'm like last day of the Virgo, but that's all I know. It's possible that I have, or I don't know. You'll have to tell me.
There's a lot of water, and you can just tell by looking at you and the way you talk and stuff. So, but I only know this because I have a friend who's a really good astrologer. He's taught me a lot over the years. But so so yeah. So were you always this peaceful, or when you were a child, were you peaceful or were you more flamboyant?
It's funny you should mention. I was telling my teacher when he was teaching me how to meditate, and I said, oh my gosh, I was meditating before I even knew what meditation was. I was actually pretty peaceful as a kid as well. Besides the fact that I would always pretend to be a superhero.
Okay.
I like that part.
What do you know? You're a kid. You're daydreaming.
I know, daydreaming.
I used to daydream about Star Trek.
I was always Bionic Woman or Wonder Woman. Yeah.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. At ISIS. And don't tell nobody that one.
Okay, hold on. ISIS. So you can I don't know if you can see this, but that's like.
Oh wait, hang on. Need my glasses. 1 second.
I can put it up there.
Oh no way! Yeah, the Eye of Ra. Yeah.
And then next to it is the Planetary Society.
Oh yeah,
I just thought. Yeah, just today. But nice. I'm sorry I distracted you. But
no.
Yeah. So
I was a pretty peaceful child. I think as I spent some time on my own, should I say on purpose or not? I don't know. Anyway, so I did spend a lot of time on my own, and I found ways to get past that by just sitting there.
Get past what?
Okay, for example, like if my mom said, go to your room.
Okay.
And she would turn out the light. And I was always scared of the dark.
Okay.
So if I was in my room in the dark, what I would do is sit there and close my eyes and say, with my eyes closed, it's completely dark. So I would imagine that I really wasn't in a dark room. It's just because my eyes are closed. So I would just sit there and breathe through it and breathe through it. So I would just sit there and breathe until it was time. For my mom's like, okay, you can come out now, your punishment's over. I'm like, what did I do again? Just kidding. Never mind. So I spent a lot of time doing that, but I was actually always a peaceful one. I wasn't really rowdy. And I think it's because my parents grew up really, religious. It was very religious.
Catholic, right?
No.
Oh, not
Catholic. You'd think so. Actually, my dad was Catholic. I was baptized Catholic.
Okay.
So I do have a godmother and a godfather. But then my mom was of a different religion, and then so he kind of came over to that, like kind of more like what do they call them? Is it Baptist or something? I can't remember. But anyway, like a almost like an evangelical,
charismatic.
Yeah,
like
something
Pentecostal or something like that.
Yeah, like Pentecostal or something. Yeah. So I kind of grew up
Baptist,
in that
maybe, or
one, like Baptist. And so I grew up in that religion quite a bit. And so, you know, I mean, I was voted most likely to become a religious leader in high school because I was so.
Yeah, that's a whole other subject.
Yeah, but yeah, no kidding.
What Christianity is and what it should be.
Yeah, that was tough. And so, needless to say, my mom is still trying to tell me that my studying Buddhism is wrong.
Is Satanist. That is the biggest pile of bullshit. You know, I have quite a. I mean, I literally go out to lunch with the pastor of the church two blocks away from my house every Tuesday. We go out to lunch, and we have some pretty frank discussions. And we're reading the Bible too. We're studying the book of John, and I know enough about the Bible to realize that the real Christianity is what Jesus taught and what's in the Gospels. But that's it. Forget about Paul. Unfortunately, most of Christianity in its outer form seems to be all about what Paul dreamed up. And people forget. They kind of brush over the fact that before he became Paul, he was like a mass murderer. He threw people in jail. He murdered them and all this stuff. And why? Because they didn't believe the same religion he did. And now we're worshiping him like he's like almost as good as Jesus. Yeah, no, yeah. And that's, you're right. The main problem.
Yeah, I think that's kind of it, though, is that people tend to forget that who the real teacher was.
Yeah, and the thing is, if you go and if you read the Gospels, this is my whole thing. This is in a nutshell. According to Matt Weiss, this is what the real Christianity is. Matthew 22:36, where somebody comes up to Jesus and he says, "Rabbi, what is the most important commandment?" And Jesus says, the most important commandment is to love God with all your heart, all your soul, and all your mind. And then he says, the second most commandment is to love your neighbor as yourself. And then he says, these are the two most important commandments. All the prophets, all the scriptures, everything else hang upon these. Done. That's what Christianity is supposed to be.
Yeah. Yeah, that's what confuses me when somebody says, I'm Christian, but then they hate this and hate that, and God wouldn't like this, God wouldn't like that. But we're supposed to get along, people.
Yeah.
We're supposed to like each other.
Well, there's a lot. I mean, if you really dig into those few lines, there's a lot to it, because, how are you supposed to love God with all your heart and all your mind? Well, first off, you got to figure out who God is. Well, that's a pretty long process right there. And then, so, I mean, if you can truly achieve these two commandments, and then basically you find God everywhere, and then be sure to notice that God is also in your fellow human being. Well, I mean, that's like enlightenment.
Exactly.
So that's what Christianity is supposed to be.
Yeah.
According to Jesus himself, that's what Christianity is supposed to be.
Yep. Yeah, absolutely.
All the rest of it is bullshit, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Or at least Jesus doesn't say, he says all the rest is pretty much doesn't matter if you don't have these two things. But I say it a little bit more. I say all the rest. If you don't have these two things, you don't have love for God, you don't have love for your fellow neighbor, all you've got is a bunch of bullshit. It's just crap. It's useless. It's like you got, like Jesus said, these two commandments are like the Christmas tree and everything else is like the ornaments on the tree. Well, if you take away the tree, the ornaments fall to the ground and break and they're useless.
Exactly. That's true. You gotta have, that's absolutely right. But,
anyway, so I go there because like there's so many, how people get so hung up on all the cultish aspects of Christianity and how you're supposed to be and how how wives are supposed to behave. Nowadays, it's not nearly as bad as it used to be, but it used to be that wives had to be this and this and this. Why? Because the Apostle Paul said so. Mr. Mass Murderer, shithead himself said that. And everybody bought it hook, line, and sinker. I know. All that is crap.
It's just,
I'm at the point in my life where like, you know what? I'm just going to straight up say it. I'll look Christians in the face who think they know what they're talking about. I'll say, you know what? That's all fucking bullshit. And that's not even what Jesus wants you to do.
And I think a lot of times too, is that people forget, like some people take the book of Revelation as literal. As a literal book, like this is literally going to happen, and you're like, but
Book of Revelations is like a total drug trip. Well, it's prophecy. It's just like any of the other prophecy in the Bible. It's basically dream sequences and all this vague imagery and how what is it? It's a mind free associating is what it is. And then
but it definitely wasn't. To be taken literal, but I don't know.
Well, that's a huge other topic. We're gonna run. I have to end in 20 minutes because I got to go get my hair cut.
No, that's okay.
Necesito cortarme mi pelo, mi amiga.
Está bien porque tengo un poquito de hambre. Tengo que hacer just kind of get to dinner.
Lo siento. Wow,
that's all right. What time is it for you?
Well, soy en Seattle, so it's la misma tiempo. Did I say that right?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
How would I say it's the same time? El mismo tiempo? El mismo tiempo.
Es el mismo tiempo. Ya son las 8.
Sí, las 8. Sí, las 8. Anyway, so I'm a bit like you, and if I get into the right space, I don't know if you noticed, but that's one of the reasons why I've been pretty successful doing interviews is that people pretty quickly start pouring their heart out to me too. Of course, I sort of probe a little and kind of prod and get them there. But then after that, I sit back and it's all about, it's that. But it's just creating a sense of trust too.
Yeah.
Also a sense of listening, a space of listening.
Absolutely. And I think that's the important thing too. But because even like when I do my show, people are like, oh my God, they're nervous wreck and they get all scared. And then when I bring them on, right away they feel calm. And they always tell me, oh my God, that was like the coolest thing. I felt really relaxed.
Great.
I want to come back. And I'm like, great, because they said it was fun. You made it relaxing. You made me feel comfortable and I wasn't scared. And that's how I like people to feel.
Right.
So yeah, I think that to me I like that talent, so to say.
So you're kind of like a healer then.
That's what I've been told.
Yeah. So you're an empath and a healer.
Mm-hmm. That's what I've been told as a healer.
And then are you able to, do you feel overwhelmed if you work with too many people?
Mm.
So that's why you need a lot of time alone.
That's why I need my time.
Yeah.
To just kind of let it go. And sometimes half an hour will be fine. Sometimes I just need a while.
Right.
It just depends. So that's one thing I do like about my job, which I don't ever tell people who or where I work, but I like that I do work from home. And I like that I don't have to communicate with I can go a whole day without talking to one person doing my job. And that's nice.
Right.
It's just my brain and me, and I'm good to go. Because before, whenever I had jobs where I had to interact with people on a constant basis, I was good at it and I could communicate well, and I liked being able to help people.
Right.
But I was so drained.
What kind of job was it?
Well, I had various jobs. I worked with the mayor's office. And so I did a lot of different jobs with the mayor's office, and worked with the the assessor's office and the the city councils and just everything.
Oh, a lot of government stuff. Yeah.
A lot of government stuff.
I'm an IT guy for King County.
Are you? Nice.
Which is a government job. So I work with government people all day long.
Yeah.
I know what it's like.
And I used to be,
yeah.
I used to be an investigator.
Oh, whoa.
Yeah. My background's in criminal justice. So.
Oh, wow. Okay. So how did you find yourself in that? If you're so empathic, how did you end up in that cesspool? To put it directly.
Because, yeah. Well, you know what? It surprises me too. And I think mainly because I was motivated being a person who was a victim of crime.
Okay.
And
domestic crime.
Not being able to solve or to find closure in the things that had happened motivated me to be like, I cannot let this happen to people. So it was part of me who wanted to bring peace to those who had gone through that. And so
yourself.
That motivated me. Yeah, and myself. It was my way of giving back and everything. And then when I got into criminal justice, I actually liked it because my instructors were real cops, were real investigators. It wasn't just some teacher who knew about it. They were real. So all that real experience came into play to where I grew a backbone, so to say. And my instructors were like, you need to have a voice, Maria. And I was like, okay, I don't know what you're talking about, but all right. But then after a while,
I think I just heard it.
Yeah.
So you have a tough girl that we don't really see on your show.
No, you're right.
Can you call that up? Like, you know who I just saw? Remember that show Avatar? Remember the girl, the helicopter pilot? She was a Latina.
Oh, yes.
Remember she was super badass, really tough. Yeah. I kind of saw a flash of that.
Yeah, I actually do have that side of me.
Okay.
When I'm very passionate about something,
okay,
I will go after it. And
what does it take to get you there?
Mainly injustice, I think.
Okay.
And being pushed against the wall. And I think a lot of times when somebody mistakes your, like, because I can be kind and because I can be patient, they mistake it for what is that whole thing that they always say?
Weakness.
Don't mistake it for weakness, right?
But okay, and you probably know this. A lot of time, almost more often than not, when you encounter somebody who's really nice and really kind, that's almost like an act. It's like a veneer. Beneath that, there's something way different.
Yeah.
Right? As you know.
Yeah.
I can tell. I can totally tell. Also, I mean, I've been around like meditation groups for so long. I've seen everybody always tries to be perfect and always tries to be so spiritual. It's all a fucking act. I'm like,
it is.
Get real,
right.
Dudes. I can tell. I can see right through it. And of course, what you find out is almost all of them come from like abusive childhoods.
Right.
And they're still struggling with
to deal with
same kind of stuff that I finally had to work out through therapy.
Yeah.
But they can't acknowledge it. They're want to be so perfect. They've had some spiritual experiences that feel so good and it's so great. I want that all the time. Well,
stay there.
Dude, you got to like just be a normal human being first.
Yeah.
You can't skip the steps.
I mean, yeah. I mean, there's some things that people like won't like. The person that people see on Tea and Telly is who I really am because I can't be anything else.
Okay.
But they haven't seen that other side of me, only because my show is that kind of show that people go to get away from a bunch of stuff. It's a show that I wanted to have so that people can come and laugh and have a good time and think about things and learn things, but you're not going to find a lot of controversial stuff, but that's why they've never had to see that. Okay. But like if I go to the grocery store and the person behind the counter and she's rude to me and I've given her absolutely no reason, yeah, you might see it a little bit. And I'll do it in a way though that isn't like I'm going to end up on YouTube going, and somebody's filming like this woman, jumped over the counter. This is the
real Tea and Telly. See what she's really like, you guys. It was all an act. It was all fake. This is the real her right there.
No, I inherited the look from my mom. And
did you say the look?
The look, yes.
So you can give the evil eye that can burn somebody to ashes.
And I will be like, I'm sorry. Are you having a bad day today? Why is that? Because I'm, and I won't tolerate the disrespect when I've given you a reason. I'd like you to have your manager come over here so that we can have a little discussion. So yes, there is a part of me who will stop somebody from doing something when if they're going to be me.
Exactly.
But
the thing is,
if you don't say anything,
then nothing happens, right?
And the thing is like, to do that.
If there's something that needs to be corrected, if you're quote enlightened, you can damn well correct it.
Exactly.
And if that moment is the moment where you say, you know what, you're so fucking full of shit, that if that's the thing to say, then that's what you say.
Right.
Who cares if it's spiritual or not?
Yeah, it doesn't matter. So yeah, I do get mad. I do get angry, and I
F-bomb. Yeah. I might have to. Well, I failed because I brought this. Before. This was supposed to get rid of that. But at the moment the F-bomb came out, I didn't have time to do that.
Oh yeah, it's so funny because people are like, when I was going on somebody's show, one of them says to the others, "You guys behave," because she doesn't cuss or anything like that, and I'm laughing. I'm thinking, oh, if they only knew. And they didn't want to offend me.
You gotta be all nice. You gotta be all nicey nice.
And
being spiritual, but you know what's so funny? On one hand, people think being spiritual, being religious is all nicey nice. Not at all. Real spirituality is you go through the deepest planes of hell.
Every motion.
And you get going through the meat grinder so many times that you finally come out of it and you're like, okay, this is who I am. This is it. Take it or leave it.
Yeah. I'm telling you, I laughed at her. I said, you know what? I was in criminal justice major. I hung around cops. I was an investigator. You don't think that I know the foul language, like left and right, left and left? I just never have to use it on my show.
Right.
But I've said some things before.
And remember, we decided early on that there's no good and bad, right?
Exactly.
So that means that doesn't mean that you're not allowed to swear.
Exactly.
It means you are allowed. And this is the funny thing, that as you become more rooted in silence, most people do not become more silent. They actually become more exuberant and more outrageous than they ever were. Because their personality becomes energized by the silence, which is, again, the power and the source of everything.
Yeah.
And whatever we used to hold them back is kind of dissolves. And then they're just like, you're
this is freer. You're freer.
Yeah.
You're free.
You're much freer. And generally speaking, you end up being much more expressive.
Yeah.
Yeah. And exuberant.
I have learned to be very expressive.
It happened to me. I'm way crazier and way off the wall now than I was a couple decades ago. Even though, to tell you the truth, I'm still really just being the same way I always was. It's just now I don't hold myself back nearly as much.
I'm louder than I used to be, I have to say. I'm louder and angrier and happier and sadder and everything than I used to be. So I like that.
Yeah, I see there's still a lot of pain in you. So there's some more to work on.
Yeah.
All it is, and really all it is acknowledging it and realizing I'm a human being.
Mm-hmm.
Human beings experience pain.
Mm-hmm.
But the trick is to not get stuck in it.
Yeah. Yeah.
It is what it is.
Yeah.
Right.
Absolutely. Yeah. You're right. I know I still have a lot to work through.
There's a lot of expectation. Like there's a lot of father type of stuff that's like still looming over you as far as I can see. Is that true? Father image is sort of.
Yeah, I think there's some things I never understood, like my dad, to show affection, he used to pat me on the head. And I'm like, I'm not a dog. I couldn't understand why he was afraid to hold me and hug me and say, I love you. Like, I couldn't understand that. It took a long time. Now it's different. Now my dad's like, oh my God, and he hugs me.
Oh, great.
Like, I love you. And
great.
And it was kind of like that too with my mom. The first time I remember hearing her say I love you, I was 19.
Oh, wow.
And so, yeah, I don't know. Yeah.
Why
I remember the first time. It was crazy.
So she was like really hardcore or something.
Yeah, I don't know. I was, it was really different. But
was she now, Latina? Was your mom Latina?
Yeah. And now it's different too. My mom's like, hi, baby. I love you so much. And I love the mess out of her. And she's apologized for a lot. I mean, it was a big deal. My mom's like, oh my God, I'm so sorry. It was, And I said, Mom.
But I thought, from what I've gathered from Latin culture, most Latinos and Latinas are much more heart-centered and loving.
It was the strangest thing. We were a close family, but distant in a way. Like we all kept our own feelings and things inside of us, but yet we were a close family. Like even without them saying it, I knew it.
Okay.
Even if I didn't hear it, but hearing it is nice.
So you were born into that. So that dynamic was already in the family when you were born, it sounds like. So as a child, you just immediately assumed that that's how things are supposed to be.
Yeah. And I guess it confused me as to why they were able to do that with my brothers and my sister, but not me.
Oh, everyone else got hugs, but you didn't?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Oh, that's strange.
I know.
Did you ever figure that out?
I don't think so. I don't know that I ever will know. But I was treated differently. A lot of times I'm like, am I adopted?
I was going to say, are you adopted or something? But
no,
what?
No, I look very much like my mama.
Okay. Wow. That's interesting.
Yeah. So.
Ooh, that's really interesting.
But it's
Of course, we have like 5 minutes left. Dang it. Yeah. This always happens. But we talked for like an hour and a half, and you feel like we just scratched the surface.
That started. I know it is funny, but it was nice environment because it is good to be able to talk about other things too, and I think for people to see that what they're getting isn't somebody fake. Like I'm not just in front of the camera acting like somebody. What they get is me. I mean, except for when I do Vampira.
You do what?
An act. When I do my Vampira character.
Okay.
The one that's going to be the comic book.
Kind of like Elvira.
Yeah. Well, yeah, she's actually turning from that aspect over to, since we're doing it into a comic book, she's a sorceress and she's a superhero. So I'm so excited about that one.
That's cool.
And it's going to be kind of fun because I'll finally get to live out my childhood dream through comic book. And so I'm excited to have David.
When does that come out?
Well, hopefully this year.
Okay.
But David Beatty's been very busy. So he's been working on it, but slowly, but I think it comes out this year, later on this year.
Cool.
So I'm very excited about that. She just kind of is coming together. It's kind of writing itself almost. And so it's been a wonderful experience and I'm excited about that. But other than Vampire though, what people see is what they get.
Yeah.
funny, lighthearted.
There's a lot there.
Yeah.
Well, we should do another one of these. Either do it on my channel again, or maybe have me on your show or something.
Yeah.
Because now I'm like, what else is in there?
I'm going to be starting a new segment on Tuesdays. And I was going to do my first one live with the tea mistress. I'm going to have tea, and I'm going to be wearing my kimono.
Oh, cool.
So it's going to be
which is your Zen outfit?
No, this is an actual kimono, not my Zen robes.
Okay.
And it's going to be kind of relaxed. I'm going to be telling things or whatever. So my first one's going to be her. She actually creates her own teas. So she's going to talk about that process and everything, but it's going to be the Kickstarter to my Tuesdays. And I was going to pre-record those and then just air them on Tuesdays. So if you want to go live, we can actually maybe do that and have a nice tea segment with me to where we drink tea and talk about whatever.
I'm totally up for it. Yeah.
So, yeah, we can.
And that would be live, right? It would be live.
Well, we could do live, but it's
up to you, whichever you like.
We can always pre-record them, and then that way I can just air it on Tuesdays since I live stream mostly on Fridays. But because I was going to have tea time to where I talk about whatever, and so maybe we can do a pre-recording of it and then air it on Tuesday. And do part 2.
Yeah, for sure. See, I even brought my crystals. See, I'm like, once I start doing therapy, then I'm like, okay, I might as well try crystals too. Nice. So, these are rose quartz.
Rose quartz, yes. I know rose quartz.
And
I used to wear one.
They actually work really well for me. So whenever I do my meditation now, I brought them because I was hoping maybe we could do a meditation. I even have a special chair that I'm using. I usually don't use this chair, but this one is one where I can sit in it and cross my legs a little bit. That? But we ran out of time, darn it.
I know. So, we'll have to do it on my segment then, on my
Sounds good.
So no, I had fun. We'll have to continue that.
Yeah, it's been great. So do you ever call yourself Maria?
Yeah, sometimes I do. Yeah. Somebody asked me that too. Is it Maria? Or like when I'm on Latino slants, I'm Maria. Definitely Maria. Maria. Yeah, Maria. But sometimes I'm Maz, depending on it's my nickname in Australian. The Australians call me Maz.
Australia? We didn't even get into that.
No, it's my friend who does all my videos and stuff, who produces a lot of the stuff.
Okay.
He's one that does Australia's Most Haunted, and he does all the stuff, cinematographer and all this. Anyway,
great.
He calls me Maz. Hey, Maz. So I'm like, sometimes you see me.
That's great. All right, so we gotta wrap it up.
Sounds good.
So I don't know what I mean. Usually I say live long and prosper, but like so in Hinduism there's like namaskar or namaste, but like in Zen, what would you say? How would you like honor somebody? What would be a good
bye? You just say bye. No.
Bye or hi. Hi.
Yeah, I mean you still kind of do the,
Okay, we can do that. So let's do it. So.
Fantastic creations emerging spontaneously from the space of life. For the benefit of all beings everywhere. We gotta change.